We are Matt and Jessica, a couple of Michiganders who, back in 2012, decided they'd had enough of the rat race and shoved off for more distant horizons in their 34-foot sailboat Serendipity. Taking on parts of the Caribbean and sailing 3/4 of the way across the Atlantic, we arrived in the Azores only to fall into deep longing for a project boat back in Florida. Temporarily throwing away our plans for the Med, we crossed back to Florida to begin a complete overhaul on the boat we just purchased, a 1983 Chisaloo, a custom aluminum sailboat. For the past year and a half, we've been slaving away as we live aboard to turn her into our dream boat, making lots of mistakes but also learning along the way. Join us as we get her ready for her first time in the water in 10 years and eventually sail away to those distant horizons once again. The decision has been made and we are making the switch over to AWL GRIP from Petit's 2-part easy epoxy. It's just one of those things where the other paint was coming off way too easy, and to repair it we would have been throwing more money into the Petit products. And so although it's not anything we want to do right now, putting extra money into paint, putting extra time into paint, we decided that overall it would be the best decision for us just to get it out of the way while we still have the ability to. Plus the place right behind me right now is Florida Fiberglass in Stewart, and Matt did a bunch of researching online and found out that they have the best prices anywhere out of any online shop. Even Defender didn't even come close. So you know, it's kind of an easy decision when they're just up the road from Walmart where I do my weekly grocery shopping. So now stocked up on a few things. Got snow white. I thought we wanted cloud white. I hope that's right. Okay. So anyway, we got some AWL GRIP now and all the stuff that goes with it. Topcoat converter and some other things that are kind of shoved in the box that I don't feel like removing right now. So that will be the newest product to start this week. Even just a month or two after we applied the paint last year, we started to have issues of this where it would start kind of scratching the surface, and we thought maybe it was just all the wood and other things that we were bringing in that were starting to chip off the paint, and knew it wasn't good. But since the cockpit was going to be done last, we figured we could go touch up areas when we were painting in here since it was right next to it. But then other areas just started really peeling off. This is something that we did with our chisel the other day just to see if it would come off, but you can see how easily it's just, I mean, like you can take a fingernail and pick it and it will come right off. But the biggest issue we had, or we noticed, was when we went to go apply the non-skid, which I think was in video 2 or 3, and we put down the blue painter's tape. Let me get over here. And it sat down for only about 2 days while we were covering the top coat paint to get the non-skid around it, and we pulled off the blue painter's tape and it just started taking up lines of our top coat paint. So if 3M blue painter's tape can do that, we knew it wasn't a good idea, and we knew it was time for a switch, so we had to go back and fix that, and now we are. So I've been up on deck the past 4 days non-stop sanding, and Matt has been doing all the other projects mostly involving woodwork to try and get us out of this yard as soon as possible. And today we are starting the cockpit seats, which I am super excited about, and I will have him kind of go through the explanation of what he's doing right now with those.
Making seats.
Making seats.
So all I did was just a quick little template to see the angle that the sides come in at. So I can cut down the boards. Spacing wise, we're going to end up using just these little spacers here. Should be adequate for expansion and contraction, and still close enough that we're not falling through. There's a little bit of warp in here. We'll pull that in when the other pieces, which this is just a template, but give an idea, this is the bottom. And I cut 4 of those. So 1, 2, 3, 4 type of thing, which they're sitting up there right now. And basically it. Really not much I can say.
And the wood we're using is called Cumaru. It's a teak harvested in Brazil. It's some kind of Brazilian wood that's harvested from a sustainable forest, and we're not going to do any kind of treating to it. It's kind of a darker, a brownish color right now, but eventually it's just going to fade out to gray, and we'll leave it like that. But that's about that. These are the pieces that Matt was talking about down below that he's cut to sit in the cockpit. They're all going to get drilled into, well, I almost fell off the boat. Just drilled into these little holders right here and sit on top. And if you can tell, our cockpit has an angle the seats do, so water can drain towards the center and fall out. But So far it looks like a pretty easy process, so hopefully in a few days we'll have these ready. Even though I'm still going to be painting the cockpit, at least we'll have everything cut and labeled so that when the painting is finished we can just install it and be done and not be doing this in May in the extreme heat. And that's what I like to see at the end of a workday.
It's not the end.
Nearing the end of a workday.
Oh no, we still got hours of fun.
We'll be working till the sun goes down.
Yeah.
But
Here,
look,
come and have a seat.
there is a cockpit seat.
Kind of.
Kind of.
Kind of.
We're at the start of one.
And right across here it bows out slightly, so I got to shave off this to be able to tuck that in just a little bit further. But
It's a good start.
yeah, for a park bench.
Cool.
Yeah.
Let's have a beer.
It's comfortable at least.
Yep.
Lots of space. Actually quite a bit wider than what our previous boat was, so wider here, and lengthwise it's long enough for me to lay down.
Yeah, we don't have a wheel sticking out in our way, so.
Yeah, our last boat there was for the big wheel, there was a cutout right around this area. And so when you lay down, there was always that area where your feet would have to go over to the other side.
Yeah.
It just wasn't too comfortable. You kind of kick back and lay down just fine. And there's always straddling up on top of this part too. And
There's so many ways to lounge.
like a sexy model.
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
Today marks 2 weeks since we have made the decision to strip off all of our Petit paint and go over to AWL GRIP. And because the initial process we had gone down to bare metal and we had to use the Aluma prep and then the barrier coat to build it up, we didn't want to have to go through all of those steps again, and luckily we don't have to worry about the areas that have the non-skid paint on it. It's just the trim areas that we're getting the shiny top coat that we're going back to redo. So what my job has been is sanding off that shiny top coat, which was peeling off so easily before, and getting it down to just the primer, if I can, down to the prime coat primer, at which step we will put on another coat of prime coat, then switch over to AWL GRIP and do a coat of their primer too if necessary, and then start putting on the actual AWL GRIP itself. I started the process with an orbital sander, 220 grit sandpaper, I think, just because I wanted to be really cautious that I didn't go down to metal, which we knew was going to happen in some areas. So after a few days with the orbital sander, getting all of the big areas, I switched over to just our palm sander, and then also upped the grit to 100 because I found that when I had better control from the palm sander, I was able to more easily take the paint off, still without going through. Then in some other areas I did have to do just hand sanding down as well. So and that was the big question of how long it would take to get it back down, and apparently 2 weeks, 14, probably be 16 by the time I can paint again to just strip those areas of the top coat. But then the hardest area for me now has been the welds and just other hard to reach areas, because it's really hard just to get off the one coat without going really hard at it, and I don't feel like going all the way down to metal and building up again, which at some point it probably would have been quicker to do that than being so cautious not to get past that, so we'll see.
I've got a ton of gravel in my shoes, world on my shoulder, heart full of blues. I'm in the dirt, down in the dirt.
I've been working on the painting. Matt has been, oh, the list. Where's the list? Okay, hold on. Let me find it. Aha! We have now made the list. The list that is going to get us in the water. we finally got to that point. I'd say without the painting, we are about a month away from getting in the water. So what are the things we have on here? Well, you can read it, or you can try to read it. But that's what's gonna get us in the water. So Matt has been tackling these items while I am busy sanding. So it's maybe 2 months now that we've added this project of redoing the paint that we could actually get in the water. But a lot of it is also we're just trying to get it before the weather heats up. It's been in the mid 80s lately with some cold fronts coming through. But what we found out last year is that trying to get the paint on and anything above 80 degrees, it just starts to dry much quicker than you can really roll it out smoothly. So kind of rushing to get it done by that. Normally I wouldn't mind taking my time just to sand down to what's necessary, but we also don't want to kind of screw ourselves over later by being so cautious just sanding down that by the time we go to apply the paint it's so hot that it's not going to go on well anyway. So kind of a balance there, picking the right one. Then I'm assuming each coat will take about a week from application to sanding smooth before the next coat can go on. So I'm still thinking that we've got maybe a month of work ahead for my painting job, but luckily Matt's been doing a pretty kick-ass job of checking things off that list. So hopefully as soon as I get the paint done, we can go in the water, which would be amazing. So with all the work that I've put into it so far and all of the work that still has to get put into it, and with my life just being a cycle of always sanding and painting, I am just wondering one thing, and that is, what are the rules of drinking in the middle of the workday when you're your own boss? I'm gonna go ahead and say that it's allowed. So, yeah. Guess what? There's a video camera in your face.
Awesome.
Especially while you're so happy right now. So,
should have bought a real circular saw.
Yeah. So you can see Matt has completed both the seats now, and we have moved on to working on the floor because there is a gaping hole.
They're not completed.
They're not completed, but they're intact.
They're closer.
So there's one section here where the pedestal used to be.
Yeah. So it's got to be piece cut so it fits as kind of a veneer over the top of this, and then these two pieces can butt together. So that's been the big thing, is just trying to get this. This is not a level surface at all, so I have to go through and grind that down a little bit more. But as it stands right now, they're lining up okay. And then this metal area down here will be primed and painted as well. And then these will be bolted in, just one or two bolts, actually through bolted, Tef gelled and through bolted, so then they'll be able to be removed clean and hopefully help prevent some of the corrosion from forming underneath there. Again, the only reason why we're keeping this is we don't know if we're ever going to want to go back to an actual wheel instead of the tiller. I'm thinking we'll keep it tiller, but just in case, we don't want to actually cut that out yet. So we're just veneering that, kind of putting these pieces over the top. They're about 3/8 of an inch thick through here. Otherwise, you're 3/4 the rest of the way.
I like the way it's looking so far.
Yeah, once I get a nice straight line without an actual circular saw, it's making it real entertaining. For 30 bucks, I could buy a circular saw and be done, but
well, have fun with that. I get to
too
go back.
far now.
I get to go back to scraping paint.
Yeah.
This is the state that the boat is in right now. I've taken off all of the paint that I can down to primer. I hope the light's okay here. But this is the biggest area that you can see. So most of that gray is our barrier coat, and the lighter stuff on top of it is the prime coat, which I was trying to get down to. The hardest spots for me, which you can see now, I've already gone back and started touching up with our barrier coat because it was easy to go down to metal, where these areas here where the welds are connecting to any kind of handlebars, stanchions, things like that. That's what I've actually spent about the past 4 days just working on these things alone. The bases of our granny bars here. But otherwise, in most of these areas, it was just going through with the orbital sander, palm sander, and on the bottom here, coming out a few inches from here, because this will be the shiny top coat leading into our non-skid. And the entrance to the companionway here, you can see where maybe there's a bit of discoloration there, and especially the areas that lead into the companionway. I haven't gone through with the barrier coat yet, but those yellow areas and some metal showing through is where I did go all the way through the paint. So today I'm going to have to go through with our primer and barrier coat, build those back up, and hopefully tomorrow I can actually go through everything with our primer. But yeah, these areas as well, we're planning on doing non-skid right in the middle, but the areas right around it were the top coat paint. So it's just been a long project of taking off that paint which we applied last year and getting it ready to go to AWL GRIP. But hopefully now that I've got everything taken off, the process of putting it back down is going to be much easier. So you probably won't see anything again on this until I do 2 more videos, just because, you know, 1 week is just going to be getting a coat of primer on. But after that, hopefully there'll be a lot of progress. So we'll just have to see how it comes back together and get ourselves ready to go back in the water. For our next episode, we're getting a little bit away from boat work and focusing more on our behind-the-scenes life on the Hard, since we just came up on our 2-year anniversary of living on the Hard between our first boat that we sold here and the current one we're living on now. So we'll show you what our daily routine is like while we're not doing boat work, with all the other behind-the-scene things like walking 5 minutes every time we want to go to the bathroom and going up and down the stairs just to get in and out of the boat. But we want to know from you too what kind of questions you have about our life on the Hard. So if you're able to comment on the video on the first few days of it going up, we'll definitely try and get it in there. Any questions you have about what it's like to live on a boat on the dirt for 2 years now. So that's going to be the next thing that's coming to you.